right, so it's set up to YouTube and Twitter.
Okay.
So, do you have a go live button though, like on the top?
I do, and I hit go live. So let's see if it's actually working.
Let me check.
Oh, okay, it's probably live then.
According to this, it is not. This is the same problem we were having last time.
Okay, let me check on YouTube.
It might be a delay.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I see it working on, at least on Twitter. Hello, everybody. If you're watching, sorry, we're having some technical difficulties because technical difficulties is what happen when you deal with technical stuff.
Let's see. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Here it is.
Yeah, I don't know if the YouTube is going to work, honestly, but, I mean, it's still on Twitter.
Okay.
So I would say just go for it.
All right, I guess let's just go for it. And then sorry, everybody who tuned in on the actual link that we had via YouTube. Okay, where are you? All right, let's just Control-Shift-R. Come on, stream. Ooh, we're streaming on YouTube. Thank you, Matt. You are a technical genius.
Oh, awesome.
No problem.
Okay.
Good luck.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Matt. Bye. Have fun. Stay safe. Don't get eaten by zombies. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Sorry for joining at least like 3 minutes late. We were having some technical problems, but we definitely have an action-packed Training Tuesday for you today. So let's get started. Ty, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ty Blackard. I'm known as Titan Inc. On Twitter. I've been doing blockchain stuff since 2018, early 2018. I'm currently COO of FOMO Hunt. We're releasing a product very soon, hopefully this month. And can't exactly say what it is, but definitely stay tuned. You can find us at FOMO Hunt, and you can find me at Titan Inc. But yeah, I've done some trading in the past, mostly focused on macro trading now, but that's a little bit about me.
Cool, Ty. I'm Eryka Gemma from the Blockchain Center Miami. Normally, Matt runs this show, but I'm taking over for him because he is in New York on a boat. So go, Matt.
Nice.
Now, the goal of this show is just to teach you guys some different trading strategies, hear from different traders, and obviously talk about price predictions on the Bitcoin price. I do want to clarify that this is not financial advice. Do your own research, but if you're interested, you can always subscribe to us at blockchaincenter.com. Reach out to us. We do have like times where you can set up consultations. If you do want some, personalized plans on how to grow and improve your Bitcoin holdings, but this is not financial advice once again. So Ty, just to get into a little bit of your background, do you want to talk a little bit just about the strategy that you use when you trade?
Yeah, as far as strategy goes, like I said, I'm a macro trader. So I look at, like very long-term trends. So as far as, I guess, if you want to get into like indicators for trading, long-term technical analysis, you'll mainly just be looking at either moving averages, trend lines are okay, depending on what scenario. And then actually one of my, I guess, most viral tweets, this was back in 2018, I believe. I used the RSI indicator to determine the lowest point of the market in 2018. That was after, the dump from 2017. And it's just simple stuff that you can use to determine, either, long-term price action or the end of like a bearish continuing trend, stuff like that. So I don't get into too many details now, but I used to do day trading and swing trading.
Very cool. Yeah. Day trading, swing trading, those are meant for people who have the time to do so.
Oh yeah. and the ability to withstand the stress, because if you get like an indicator going off at like, 3 o'clock in the morning and you have a position open, you got to wake up and you got to get on that.
Exactly. I mean, crypto is a 24/7 market, right? So 2 things I like to tell people. First thing is that You don't have to buy a full Bitcoin. Anyone that's watching, you do not have to buy a full Bitcoin. It brings stock market wealth creation methods to average individuals. The barriers to entry are super low. Anyone with a Wi-Fi signal and a cell phone can now participate in the global financial system. So, Ty, I know you have a lot of different charts and like trading related things. I am not a trader myself. I do use a bot that trades for me. If you're interested in learning what bot I use, it is a quant bot. Let me know and I can post it in the chat room or something. But yeah, Ty, take it away.
Cool. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Share screen. Yep.
And I will make you larger.
Let's do here. And then it should be up. Okay. So you're looking at my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what we're going to do is, again, this is a macro approach. I like to go, if you ever heard people say zoom out, okay, this is what they mean. So what we're going to do is we're just going to back out and we're just going to go to the weekly for now. So what I have here is this is a larger trend line. I forget the exact name of this specific trend line, like triangle. I can't remember if it's like an ascending triangle. That might be what it's called. But in this particular case, and again, technical analysis is not the end all be all. So especially in Bitcoin's case, fundamentals are going to take over more often than not. However, since 2017, we've been in this whole kind of bearish sort of continuation type of trend thing, but that could be changing. So again, we're in this like ascending triangle. This is not logarithmic. So this is 2017 here. And by the way, logarithmic, just so you can see what it looks like, it's just an easier way to see like the past pricing. It kind of just lumps everything together. That way you can see, previous like prices like down to like hundreds of dollars. Whereas now we're in, like the thousands. So what I'm looking at here is, again,
logarithmic is kind of like what we learned in math, where it's just like a summary instead of getting into the details.
Pretty much. That's the best way to describe it. Yeah. It's just a way so you can kind of see, all the price action. Otherwise, if you're looking at it like this, I mean, you're looking at from 3,200 down here to 19, almost 20,000. So this is more spread out, and this is probably the more accurate way of viewing the price analysis, at least if you're looking at this type of range. Now, if you're looking more long term, then do whatever you want. You can look at logarithmic, but for this purpose, we're just going to trade in the normal numbers. All right, so what this ascending triangle could mean is, in technical analysis world, it could mean that, we could bounce off the top here at 10,200. And there is a lot of resistance there, and we'll show you on the daily, and then bounce maybe down to, I mean, it's possible, but, bounce down to 42, 4,300, and then just keep trading until we get to this point where we have to make a choice between going down and up. Now, if you believe in the Bitcoin fundamentals, then you're probably not going to believe it's going to drop from, 4,700, somewhere in that range below, especially because that's not how historically Bitcoin is traded. Okay. And the Bitcoin fundamentals are higher than ever. So, unless you were like a regular stock trader and you think that Bitcoin has no value, you might say it would go down. In this case, we believe it'll go up. So now it's possible that this triangle could be completely invalidated if Bitcoin is to go up from here. And I will show you a closer look in here as well. So what we have here is these are what are called EMAs. So these are exponential moving averages. So you can choose whatever numbers you want to go with. You can choose like 2150. You can choose 100, 200 EMAs, whatever you want to go with. I like to look at 21 and 50 week EMAs. And by the way, these are based on whatever time frame you're selected in. So for this, for example, we're in the weekly. So we're going to be looking at 21 and 50 week EMAs. And so what we can see here, and this particular indicator actually tells us where there are bearish and bullish crosses, which is very helpful.
I really hope that my Wi-Fi is not messing up. Oh, wow. Hello. Ty, can you hear me, or can you guys, is it his Wi-Fi that's messing up? Oh no. Oh, he's frozen. Well, let me just tell you what bearish and bullish indicators are. My bearish and bullish. Okay, there you go.
Am I still here?
On. I was ad-libbing while you were gone, but I was just going to say my bearish and bullish indicators are when the Federal Reserve is printing, I don't know, what is it, $150 billion a day. That's very, very bullish for the crypto market cap. Also, I think you're going to talk about it too, but we're getting into this like red circle. So continue, yes. Ty. You just cut out a little bit when you were talking about the EMAs.
Okay. I don't know why. I don't know if you cut out or I cut out, but yeah. So the EMAs. All right. So you have the green here. This is the 21 EMA, and the bottom here is the 50 EMA, the red. So what's happening here at this little red cross is you have the 21 crossing over the 50. Now that's what we would call a bearish cross. Now that is an indicator of bearish continuous momentum. Now obviously that was it's pretty obvious when you're looking at the price action, but if you needed any more of a confirmation, you could use that red cross to see that. Now, obviously, right before this red cross, that's when we had the big dump down to 3,200. Mm-hmm. So now, just so you can kind of understand like what these crosses mean. So in May of 2019, we had a bullish cross, and this was when the 21 crossed over the 50. And then, of course, we had another red cross, just very slightly on the I think it's called Black Thursday now. The big, what was it, 50% drop for Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So that was a big, cause for the cross, the bearish cross here. But the biggest thing right now is how fast it recovered. So if you look closer, you can see that this bullish cross here happens almost immediately after this bearish cross, which means that it's almost like, like Bitcoin really didn't want to go down, but there was a lot of pressure that was pushing it down. We don't know what that was necessarily, mm-hmm. but it was there. And so either way, Bitcoin recovered quite well. And this is where we're going to go ahead and get down into the daily. So let me just go ahead and get rid of these guys.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I just want to make a general comment is that I've heard from many traders in the past, is that all of these different indicators that they use to read charts on Bitcoin, it happens very, very quickly. Where in the traditional markets, it might take a couple days. In Bitcoin, it takes hours to see some of these signals. Do you think that's true, Ty?
Yeah, most of the indicators are lagging indicators. So sometimes you can have indicators that give you an idea of what's going to happen in the future, but it's not like a confirmation until like the very last moment. Now, that's why, some traders will use multiple indicators to kind of come to a more sound conclusion. But ultimately, and this is the thing about like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, these markets are so volatile and they're so young that there's not a whole lot of market cap in them. Yep. So, they trade more volatile, right? So it's not like they're going to follow regular patterns that stock markets would or the Forex markets would. Mm-hmm. So if you're like a Forex trader, you would have a much better chance with indicators or patterns than you would, trading this stuff. Now you can, but again, that's why I trade macro now, because I realized that the market's just way too young for me to be doing a lot of this smaller stuff.
Okay. Now, Booster asks, is that I'm going to say prognostic, not pronostic. Maybe I don't know trader terms. 2-3 month.
I wish I knew what that question was asking. Booster,
re-ask us. What do you mean, man?
Could you clarify?
Yeah. Hi, Mauricio. Holy cross for Bitcoin. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, and so they'll sometimes call it like the golden bullish cross, the golden cross, and it depends on like what EMAs you're looking at. Mm-hmm. There's usually like 2 EMAs or MAs that might be like the 50 and the 200 that people use to determine a golden cross. But it's all sort of the same. It's just the lower the number, the less of a lagging indicator it is. So ideally, if you had like a 50 cross over the 200. That just means that it's way more certain of a bullish continuation than it would be with lesser numbers. Okay. So now we're looking at the daily now, And these crosses, they're pretty. You can see like they're definitely lagging. I mean, you can see this cross here. It happens much later, and at that point, I mean, if you saw this cross, you'd probably say, okay, I'm out. I'm gonna go ahead and sell. But by then, you'd be down 33%. So sometimes these indicators, like the EMAs, are not as helpful as others. Again, that's why we hodl. So let's go ahead and actually. I'll leave that up for now, actually. I want to show you this indicator here. So this is called the accumulation distribution indicator. It's pretty simple, actually. And the way it works is it basically, I think it multiplies the price with volume. So the closing price. So if you have a closing price that is, positive, it's green, and then you have, positive bullish volume, it's going to multiply these together to get you a result that would give you accumulation. Now, if you have a closing price that is bearish and a volume that is also bearish, of course, that's going to happen. That'll multiply those two together to give you what's called distribution. So in this case, and I could go back farther if you wanted me to, really, and it's pretty cool because the farther back you go, you see there are very few places where there's actually decent distribution. And I'll show you where there was distribution. And you can actually see like that big dip in 2018. That was where we saw some decent distribution here, but it wasn't even that bad. The sell-off, did happen, and there was distribution, but compared to what we see with, if you see like this uptrend here, this is all accumulation. So, and this is also by the way, this is Black Thursday, the big dip. So this is all accumulation, which basically means that as the price moves up and as accumulation continues, we're seeing this is where fundamentals would come in. We're seeing a lot more people buying Bitcoin regardless of the selling pressure, and this is obviously bullish on its own. Mm-hmm. So this is a very bullish indicator, and it's really kind of exponential the way accumulation is occurring right now, as opposed to like very small dips in distribution. So this is a cool little indicator you can use here. And this is more macro. So let's go ahead and hide that one.
And now for people that just want to know some basics too, TradingView is probably the #1 easiest platform to like draw all these different cool lines on. And so Everybody that's been on this show before, they all use TradingView.
Yeah, it's the easiest one. You can just reference stocks, digital assets. There's also like Coinigy, which I've used I think like one time, and some other people use it, but I just think TradingView is the easiest to use, and I think Coinigy is actually not free anyways, but TradingView is. Okay. So so now go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So what we're looking at now is we're going to look at this little trend line here. Now, this is, again, I can't remember the names of these patterns or names of these little triangles things, but it doesn't really matter because they serve a purpose. So this little triangle in particular, or whatever you want to call it, is kind of showing us where there's a kind of like some pressure on both ends here. So, and the other thing I want to note is this little green box here. This is showing a range. Now, the range that I have here, I think this is I want to say 10,170 between that and 8,700. And I highlighted this range because what's happening is most of the times that we see prices in these ranges, it actually either skyrockets back up to prices above this range or crashes below. And it doesn't spend a whole lot of time in this range because I think there's various key psychological resistance and supports here. More likely resistance. But what I think's happening now is, and by the way, that resistance would probably be like, somewhere around 10,000, and your support would probably be somewhere around 8,700. But what I think is happening now is these psychological resistances are being kind of like just whittled away. Like just think about it like a little hammer, hammering on some limestone or something like that. Eventually, you're going to get through the longer you hammer at it. So I think that's what's happening here. And this is kind of showing us where Bitcoin is going to have to make a choice. So you can either, cross above this triangle here, which of course is going to probably propel us to somewhere between, I don't know, I'll just take a guess, like somewhere between 11K and 13 or 14K, and then could trade sideways from there. Or it could also dump. Now it depends on your long-term view of Bitcoin. And it doesn't have to actually dump necessarily. It could go below here and then still trade within this range somewhere here. So those are some possibilities. But yeah, so this is kind of like the big range right now. This could also, like I said, it could trade sideways for a lot longer. And I believe this is what happened with the last Bitcoin halving. It traded sideways for a while and then finally, broke the previous all-time high, which was, if I can remember it correctly,
I think it was 6,000.
Was it? I think that might be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the basis on the daily and the weekly for the most part. So yeah. And then you have a little bullish cross on here with the EMAs.
Very cool. So obviously we never know where the market's going to go, if it's going to go up or down. But if you ask me, all the different unrest that's happening, all the different gold bugs that are now popping up in my contacts that are asking me how to get into Bitcoin, how can they diversify into this asset? Definitely people are looking at stuff that has limited supply. I don't know if you guys have been seeing recently, but check it out in your own local grocery store. The price of food has been rising, specifically the price on meat, the price on milk, the price on eggs. I mean, these things have been growing. And, historically, countries move from inflation to hyperinflation within the course of, on average, a year, right? So, now's a good time to get involved in assets that have limited supply and have economic principles of sound money written into the code so everyone can verify if this is true or not. So.
I can show you even more like fundamentals if you want to see that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Ty. Can you talk a little bit about what do they say? This red circle. I keep hearing this in the trading. I don't really trade myself, but the trading circles that I'm in, I keep hearing about the red circle and the red dot. And I have friends who are outside of crypto. They kind of actually think I'm a little bit crazy because of my love for Bitcoin. But they're even telling me now, it's in the red circle. So what is that?
So this is a very popular model. It's called the stock to flow model. It was made by at 100 trillion USD. So shout out to Plan B. So this model, it's sort of simple in the way that it functions. The point that I want to focus on mainly is I think the halving is one of the best indicators for Bitcoin because the distance from the halving, it tells us a lot. And the reason it works like this, I believe personally, is just because of the incoming supply. And this is really the stock to flow model, the basis of it. So you have a limited supply with Bitcoin, and every single halving, your inflation rate is cut down. And I'll show you the inflation rate as it's going down in a second here. But the inflation rate is going down. You have a limited supply, so I think it's your growth multiplier. I think that's what he actually called it. And this is actually what they use for metals, precious metals like gold, palladium, silver, and these growth multipliers. And I can't tell you the exact math on it. It doesn't really matter. But the growth multipliers essentially determine basically like the inflation to stock percentage. Okay, we'll just call it that. So what's happening here is you can see that here on the chart. You can see it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you see the little red. This is closer to 50 to 45 months until the next halving. So in the past, you can see every single time we get into this like red range, this is where price starts to move up. So you can see this is back in 2013. So this is around $10, and then of course it goes up to around 100, and then caps out around $1,000. So sorry, I think that this was actually it caps out around $1,000 for that kind of time period for that halving. And so then you have some time that goes by, and then you go to the next red area, red circle. because the halving happens right in between the blue and the red. And you can see, again, same thing happens. You have a almost an exponential price increase from that halving. And so that's where we're at right now. We have reached this point where we are much farther away from the halving, which means it just occurred. And the closer that, or the closer that we get to the next halving, in between this last one, it means that we're going to get closer to the all-time high. The reason, obviously, is because the inflation rate is dropping, and the supply and demand shock is going to take place at some point. Now, it may not be doing that right now, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen very, very soon, especially with all the things that are going on.
Yeah. So for the simpletons like me, oh snap! I shouldn't move my computer that fast. No. Okay. All right. Well, the way that I see it is, it looks like in the red, which is 50 months after, like when the halving. So basically, the halving just happened when those little dots are red. Every time the little dot is red is when you see this exponential growth, and we are about to enter that little dot being red.
Yep.
So price is going up, guys. I mean, not financial advice. I have to say, I can't say that enough.
I mean, this is pretty good as effort. If there was an indicator, I mean, it's pretty accurate.
Definitely.
All right, and then so if we want to go on to the next one, I think I have. Oh, this is pretty simple. Actually, I'm sure you're familiar with a chart like this. So this is a better indication. As time goes on, inflation is dropping. Now, this is the way most money should operate, in my opinion. But unfortunately, that's not the way most money works. So this is basically showing, this little orange line here is showing your inflation rate dropping. So eventually, at some very far point in the future, it's going to be very, very small. So the inflation rate essentially gets cut in half every single halving. That's the basis of what happens with every halving. So for this last one, we're somewhere between you are here and I think I want to say 3.6, and I'll show you that on the next chart. And so the blue line here is showing us our block height. So the reason that this is kind of leveling off is because, again, you're going to have less Bitcoin coming in as the inflation rate is dropping, because the inflation rate is what determines how many Bitcoin are entered into the supply every single year. Or for the Bitcoin, it's every 4 years because of Bitcoin halving. So this is the way things should operate. You should have less supply coming in. You should have a fixed supply. And as this chart will, as a supply and demand chart will show you, obviously, the less supply that comes in, the more demand, as long as it's valuable, and so on. And so this chart here, this is showing right before the halving. This is the inflation rate for Bitcoin. So right before the halving, we were looking at about 3.82%. So that is, I believe that's 3.82% of the total supply entering into circulation. So now, since that halving, we're seeing a drop all the way down to, right now, 3.65%. But eventually it's going to be somewhere, I believe, around 1.8, 1.9. And this is a pretty big thing, actually, because most central banks' targets for inflation is around 2%. So as Bitcoin survives and just lives, the fundamentals of Bitcoin continue to get better and better because banks won't be able to compete, because they have to print off. Well, they don't have to, but they will print off around 2% of their total supply every single year. So, yeah.
So, Ty, what are your next trades you'll be making, if you want to walk us through those?
So next trades, I'll be buying Bitcoin. I'll be actually, if we want to get into like trades, and if you don't mind, I'll talk about like Ethereum. Mm-hmm. So Ethereum's another one. And if you're, again, this is not financial advice, but if you're looking for something that makes a lot of sense to invest in, that's going to profit off of Bitcoin, then you might want to look into Ethereum, and possibly, Litecoin is, I think, is another one as well. And those are kind of like the top two like given altcoins to look at, and especially if you're trying to accumulate more Bitcoin. So the idea is that if you simply, instead of trading for US dollars, right? So if I was trading Bitcoin back to US dollars, or if I was trading Ethereum back to US dollars, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because the US dollar is kind of what you're trying to get away from anyways. But if Ethereum, as far as if Ethereum trading pair with Bitcoin is going up, which means that you're going to be able to sell off your Ethereum for more Bitcoin, then ideally you would want to do that. So if you were to buy some Ethereum now, for example, while it's very low, and Ethereum has a much higher percentage growth than Bitcoin does because Ethereum is much smaller, and Ethereum could gain from exposure to Bitcoin traders, then essentially you could make more Bitcoin. This is obviously the idea behind this. You can make more Bitcoin, just from having exposure in Ethereum and Litecoin as well. So those are the trades.
Strategy, yeah.
Yeah, so those are the trades that I'll be making. Just because I am very confident in Ethereum, because there's also fundamentals behind Ethereum that there's a lot of news coming out about Ethereum as well. I want to say there was there was something to do with a bank in France. They just issued, I can't remember exactly how much. I think it was 80 million. I want to say in bonds on the Ethereum network. So there's a lot of stuff in DeFi going on with Ethereum. And, if you just believe that because it's alive and because there are very few opportunities for it to die, then this is where the Lindy effect comes in, which basically says that a technology that survives, the longer it survives, the more likely it is to survive.
Mm-hmm. No, so that's really good. That's a really good strategy. I mean, you're right, though. Like the market caps of your Litecoins and your Bitcoin and your Ethereums are much less. So the percentage gains, what do they say? Like a tide rises all ships. High tide rises all ships. So
yes.
Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin dominance is like 65% right now. So
yeah, and Bitcoin, I've talked about this on multiple podcasts. Bitcoin is like, and I've had the conversations with Lunar Crush guys too. They think the same way. Bitcoin's kind of like the funding mechanism for a lot of these altcoins. So you can kind of look at Bitcoin as like the main VC for cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is taking a lot of these traders, once they start generating enough Bitcoin revenue off of it, they might take it and put it into a bunch of altcoins, assuming that they're going to make even more money off of this. So really, it's like Bitcoin is kind of fueling the entire crypto economy. And if you throw some money into Litecoin, I see John there.
John called about Litecoin.
I knew he'd be in here, so I had to mention Litecoin. Yeah, so if you throw some money into Litecoin, and Litecoin's actually, I mean, let's be honest, Litecoin's actually pretty good money too. And I've always said it's like the silver to Bitcoin's gold. So, I mean, I have Litecoin, I have Ethereum, I have a Bitcoin. Those are the trades that I would make.
Cool. Good to know. Any last closing thoughts, Ty? I mean, I see people here like Drew and Mauricio talking about wearing masks. I don't know if we want to get into that on this live stream because people are in it about trading. But what do you think, like these like economic, the recent news, what's happening in the world? What do you think this means for Bitcoin?
It's a great question. I think it can go one of two ways. It could, I love like John's throwing in the chat, no mess. It could go two ways, right? So you could say, okay, the unemployment rate in America and possibly across the world is absolutely devastated because of the COVID lockdowns. As more news comes out, we're finding out that it probably wasn't a good idea to lock down. Doesn't really matter because the damage is already done. So even though the stock market is continuing to go up, which some would say that looks like manipulation to me, because I don't know where the money's coming from, because unless they're just throwing stimulus checks at it, whatever. But at some point, if they continue to print off money, the Fed, if they continue to do this and they continue to do this stimulus check, deposit, and they continue to put these on like debit cards in the future. Who knows? We don't know what's going to happen, necessarily. But if this happens, then I really think that people are going to start taking this inflationary money and trading it in for a deflationary money with Bitcoin. I think they're really going to start waking up, and then a lot of people who don't wake up are going to be hurt by the inflation rates. As well as people who are holding Bitcoin. I mean, you got to think people still have to trade Bitcoin back in just to get normal products if they don't find a way to, purchase their products online, which you can. You just got to figure out how to do that with Bitcoin.
So if you are interested, if you don't own Bitcoin, which I hope you do, please message him, message me. I put our Twitters in the chat, and we can help you get your hands on some. And you did make an interesting point, Ty, about where it's like, hey, even if you do hold Bitcoin and you hold your wealth in something that is a little bit more stable than the US dollar, you still have to spend US dollars because Bitcoin is not widely accepted. Now at the Blockchain Center, we have partnered with Crypto.com, which is they are an app that helps you buy and sell Bitcoin. They also have a deal with Visa to where you can spend your crypto directly with a Visa card, not having to worry about selling into dollars and things like that. So if you're interested in signing up for them, I will also post our link to Crypto.com in the chat room. So definitely a lot of changes are happening in the world. You guys protect yourself if you can. Even if you don't have that much savings, put the traditional put something, right? Financial advisors say, I think 3 to 5% allocate your portfolio. I say more, but I don't want to get in trouble. So,
I agree. I mean, the thing that people really have to consider is you put your money into a savings account in the bank, you lose that value year over year. And at this point, what is it now? Is it more than 3%? Is it 4%? Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, we really don't know. So, and plus too, it's like the thing that's interesting about crypto is you also have these platforms that are just like high interest bearing platforms, right? So, earn 5% on your crypto. That way you don't have to sell it. You can just hold it, but you can earn money, and the bank gives you in your savings at best. I think if you put your money in a CD right now, which says I lock up your money for 6 months, the best rate they'll give you is 2%, right? It's come on. Traditional funds, they are happy if they get a 5% return a year. And now here I am, I'm just going to put my money into this specific wallet and watch my interest grow. So exactly. So Daniela, thanks, Sean. Daniela is one of our colleagues in Venezuela. And, one thing that I've learned about dealing in those markets is that it's not that people want to get money or get rich. Like in the United States, we look at it from a very privileged perspective. What happens is that people don't want to get poor. So hopefully that doesn't happen to us. But if it does, hedge your bets, own some Bitcoin, own some Litecoin, own some Ethereum. There are a lot of people, and I've actually kind of bought into it a little bit, that this digital dollar is going to be Ripple. I don't know. We don't know, but if you can buy some Ripple, it's 20 cents. Just own a couple, see what happens.
Yeah, if you're going to invest in Ripple, look, just get it out of the way. Just do it now, and don't try to buy it at $3 again, and then tell everybody that it's going to be the world reserve currency one day, because that's probably not the best idea.
I know. What's funny is that I remember watching, I think it was CNBC, at $3, they were saying, buy Ripple, and then it tanked. And I was like,
oh, man.
I feel bad. I think that was kind of planned because they wanted to get people to have a bad taste in their mouth when it came to crypto. But, 20 cents, whatever, just throw some in there, see what happens.
Yeah.
It might be the world reserve currency. I don't know, but who knows?
I don't know. But John says 1 Bitcoin before you buy anything else. I actually want to stress that because, that's probably the most important thing that you'll ever hear. Don't try to go all in on altcoins before you get close, at least get close to 1 Bitcoin, or at least maybe 0.25 of a Bitcoin, because you got to realize this sale is going quick. You're only going to have a small opportunity to get your hands on at least 1 Bitcoin And I think there was like there's some data that came out. And I think it was like there's like 50 million millionaires, and there's 21 million Bitcoin. Not even 50 million millionaires on this planet will be able to get their hands on one Bitcoin a piece. So if they can't, what makes you think you could?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Having a Bitcoin, you become part of the new world's financial elite. And, a lot of people believe a lot of different things, but if you're like myself, and I know Ty, it is a prophecy. It is written that we are moving towards a one world government, and we're moving towards a one world currency. And what does that mean, right? Do we fear it, or do we know that this is where the world is moving, capitalize it, and become, points of authority on this issue? So, I mean, you see other things like Libra come up, and it's like, wow, like this is actually like blockchain technology is this quote unquote mark of the beast. Now, while I do not think that it is Bitcoin that will be used for this, because nobody can force you to have crypto in it, and it works like opposite of banks. You see Jamie Dimon coming out saying that it's evil. I definitely think that it is a blockchain based system. I mean, you talk about like Bill Gates and like patent is 202666, and it's like, okay, whoa, like now we're going to be able to pay people. So
I've got a curveball for everybody. So if all the financial systems around the world, all the money systems around the world were to crash, possibly purposeful, possibly not, and there was only one real option like Bitcoin, is it possible that, controlling the hash power of Bitcoin could eventually lead to having control over the network? I don't know. It's a curveball, just a thought, But either way, you probably still want to be early on this. And again, we are very early. This is only 11 years into Bitcoin's existence. And from what we do know, this is decentralized for right now, maybe not in the future, who knows? Yeah. Exactly. But it is decentralized right now, and you have the opportunity to get solid money while the world is crumbling around you. Probably a good idea to take the opportunity.
Yeah, this is not, I agree with you. I don't see this as like an insurance thing that will last forever, because we know currencies only last on average, 20 to 30 years. So do I think that Bitcoin is a forever thing? I don't know, with the knowledge that I have now, it's like, it definitely matters who has the nodes, who has the miners, who's processing these transactions, and like, are they willing to stick to the integrity of the network, right? Because the thing is too, that let's say that someone does get 51% plus control of all the miners. If they change the network, then they completely destroy all of the wealth that they've created too, and they completely undermine the system that they're trying to uphold, right? Which is the beauty of game theory that was written into the software code, which is why, Bitcoin it stays honest and remains honest. But will it always remain like that? Like, we don't know. But right now it is the best option that we have. Gold and silver, those are great. But like, if you have to flee your country, let's say that you're a refugee, some people watching are not in the United States. Bitcoin is forever. Thanks, Moontime. But some people are not in the United States. If you have to flee your country, you cannot carry gold and silver in your pocket. You will get robbed. Exactly. And if people know you hold Bitcoin, like what Nick Spano says, I can run around naked, and all I remember is my 12, 18, or 24 seed phrase in my mind, and I can access my money from anywhere in the world. So,
and just try going through TSA with a couple gold bars, see how that works for you.
Yeah, and TSA will confiscate it, and then like there's just nobody to talk to. There's no authority to be like, hey, they stole my money. Like they're just like, oh, well, it's mine. So
this is drug money, and now it's my money.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows what they do with it?
Exactly.
So, hard assets, you guys. Any closing thoughts, Ty? Anything you want to share about FOMO Hunt and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so our platform, we've been developing it for a while now. We're going to give the opportunity to customize assets all across, from stocks, forex, tokenized commodities in the future, and be able to back test them with machine learning in the future. But we're going to be releasing that product hopefully within 2 weeks. If not 2 weeks, then hopefully by the end of this month. But yeah, so we'll be going live soon. So yeah, if you guys want to check out the MVP very soon, just follow me at Titan Inc. or at FOMO Hunt. Thank you, John. You're a beast. Yeah, so this is fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, Titan, TYTANINC,
Yes.
right? Or,
Yep.
okay. And then at Bank of Eryka. Follow us, you guys, if you are interested in growing your Bitcoin, but not receiving financial advice.
Right.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
And catch us next week. Bye.
Bye.
All right. And